What's wrong?
Just go to plug in my phone since it's our source of internet.
The internet's from your phone.
Yeah,
So it has to be, we need to plug in this phone because it's the source of our internet.
it's at 35.
Is there any way to plug this in? It's our internet, basically. So we need an iPhone plug. Does anyone have an iPhone plug? A charger?
You have
an iPhone cable?
Go in the call. Give me 2 minutes.
No, he says he has. Okay.
No, it's good anyways because we need another one.
Released in all parts.
We need another one anyways.
Yeah, we need another one. It's good. Thanks.
Quite a few of them.
Welcome to part 2 of our Chanuka Shiva Tovshin Ayin Zayin. We have some, after all of the background that we had of the basic introduction of the ideas that are going on in the Parsha, let's try to look a little bit more deeply into a fuller understanding of why it is that the way in which a person perceives the idea of bitachon is so central to the concept of dreams. There's a machlokas in the Zohar of the power of dreams, whether its source is basically because the dream represents the full potential of your maximal sense of what life could hold for you. And therefore, the entire idea of the interpretation, as we saw over here, was getting past that which encloses you and doesn't allow you to fully recognize the possibilities that are there, which is one of the issues that we saw here, in that it was impossible to get them past whatever it was that they had already perceived to be the nature of the reality in which they lived. That's one approach in the Zohar. There's a completely different approach in the Zohar. And Rabbi Yehuda says it's insufficient to deal with dreams as if they represent everything in the potential that's accessible to you. The main point of a dream is that it contains not the potential that's accessible to you, but it contains the way in which you can elicit a response from the universe, a response from Shekhinah, and that your speaking can elicit a different world around you. And it sounds very esoteric, but I'd like to point out to you, let's start from the personal sense that we have. We spoke about Kate Sam Lechoshech. We spoke about Purkan Ad Hayom Hazeh. We spoke about the way, maybe not enough, about the way each and every individual senses a tremendous amount of darkness in their own life. It's not just that we're dealing with the universal time of darkness, with seasonal affective disorder, with the sadness of the disappearance of the sun and so on. The idea of, I'm not talking to South Africans, of course, and or Australians, of course. You live upside down, so I know. But in terms of the darkness of Adam Arishon's perception of things becoming more and more confused, becoming what once, this happens to everyone, what once seems to be fresh and alive and full of potential and very tamimus, innocence, really believe in things, sense of one's own significance, that the world is my oyster, that anything that I dream of, I can do. How rapidly that ends up disappearing in the pressure of the realities of breakdowns of relationships, both within oneself, one's inability to invest in one's own future, inability to handle one's time, one's emotions, one's desires, one's plans. And all of this creates, especially in things that are outside of our control, where we face the chaos of a world around us, a tremendous sense of darkness. And it's a darkness that is tinged with very profound disappointment. It's a darkness that's tinged with a sense of the fear of total insignificance. The charoda, which Yitzchak Avinu sensed, in which he could have put his whole life into investments in things that were complete mistakes, and it would just be a disaster. And a person perceives the world that's to come after him and wonders, so, like, what came of all these investments? Ma yeh acharaya, Shlomo HaMelech puts it. And who is the one that's going to inherit everything that I created and invested, and where will it go, and what will happen to it, and will it bear any connection to everything that I loved or anything that I cared about? And these are all issues of very profound darkness that are affecting Yaakov Avinu here, who speaks of Sevato Sha'ola, which is exactly what Yehuda was trying to elicit. Right now, you are not talking to Yisrael. You're talking to Yaakov, a man who is full of fears, and who sees there's no future, and who fears that he's lost Yosef forever. All of us need to climb out of that primal darkness. And that darkness, remember, goes all the way back to Ma'aseh Bereshis. The Choshech al Pnei Tahom is what comes immediately before the Ruach. And remember, Ki im beruchi, the Ruach Elohim merachefes al Pnei Hamayim, which is that very Tahom, which is the Ruach HaShamashiach, which we saw was part of what is developing here in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plans. You may experience this all as darkness. I'm experiencing it as all of the necessary steps for Ruach HaShamashiach. These two visions of dreams are also very profound differences in a completely secular take, essentially, on the nature of reality, versus a connection to the nature of reality that deals with the meaning of bitachon. The concept of bitachon that we're talking about over here is not the concept of let God do your thing for you, but rather, as I said before, what is the connection of your presence as an extant being in the universe to what is manifested in the universe? What are you supposed to be relating to? And because of that, obviously, it will completely define the nature of your dreams. I'll give you an example. You're a diver. This is a real example. It's just in the New York Times. Beautiful example. You're a diver, right? And you're a scientific diver. And you know exactly what type of life forms you desire to discover more about the nature of reality. And you meet on your dive near the surface an octopus. You extend your arm to the octopus. It's like the movie, right? Except it's octa instead of tetra. You know, you extend your hand to the octopus, and the octopus extends a tentacle and grabs your hand and starts to pull you. What do? So what did this diver do? He went with the octopus. So the octopus is pulling him by the hand like a little 5-year-old child, and he went with the octopus, who was committed to showing the diver where he lives. So he takes him to an octopus's garden, and he takes him to the octopus's home, right? Now, and that type of thing, speaking of theories of minds, I mean, let's just understand the difference between octopuses and human beings. I mean, this is an astonishing thing. You're talking about 600 million years between the latest common ancestor, between a human being and an octopus. It's not just that octopuses are invertebrates. They have no bones and they have no structure whatsoever. If you take an octopus and you give him a crack in a wall, he can squeeze through the crack in the wall if it's 1 inch wide, the entire octopus, because there's no bones there. The only thing that has to fit through the hole is his eyes, because he can't compress his eyes. You're talking about an organism that doesn't have a central brain the way a human being has a central brain. In fact, his gut runs right into his brain. You're talking about an organism that has neurons scattered throughout all of his tentacles and throughout the entire body, except a few centers. And each tentacle has its own neuronal centers, which implies that it has its own decision-making capabilities. To be able to share that level of commonality in what it is to exist, I might as well be talking about an alien, really, from a completely different entire history of evolution. I mean, 600 million years is a pretty good time to develop a different sense of sentience completely. I mean, the fact that it would be the most natural thing in the world to, I'd like to show you where I live, and that this is something that a human being can relate to, is a profoundly moving experience. There's two levels in which such an experience might be responded to. One is the experience of the Tsar's sense of the dream as the potential, the vast potential that even just a single planet offers in terms of the possibilities of what it is to be a sentient organism, and how it is that so much could be shared about the nature of reality, that just the fact of existence itself provides desire for connectedness and understanding. I want you to understand me. And in order to understand me, you need to understand, how do I live? Not just how do I think. Where do I live? What is it like to be an octopus? Would you like to know what it's like to be an octopus? So come visit. So that can be experienced from the point of view of simply vast potential. That is an aesthetic experience which is incredible. And any scientist has that aesthetic experience at any point in which they come face to face with any particular level of the expression of Tiferes in the world, which is Yaakov Avinu's original Darga. That expression of Tiferes can be a mathematical formula. It can be a particular organism. It can be an insight into a quantum mechanical strangeness, whatever it is. It's exactly the same sense of massive aesthetical experience in which you feel, my God, I'm connected to the entirety of everything, and it's absolutely astonishing. Now the question is, that universality that is always experienced in a moment of that level of sensitivity to beauty and possibilities, which is one level of the Zohar's Darg of Chalom. What does it do for you? Where does it leave you afterwards? What is the sense of connection to the world that it gives you? The immediate sense of such an experience is a profoundly enhanced consciousness that anyone is capable of. Any particularly developed individual in such a moment, and there's many indications that other life forms can have some aspect of that because they enjoy art, they enjoy watching, monkeys will sit together and watch a sunset together with their arms around each other, looking out at the sunset. I mean, yes, I understand that. Obviously, we don't have a right to particularly interpret that the way we'd like to, but it certainly appears that there's a general sense of aesthetics that goes through life, goes through sentience. Now, the question is, does it do anything different than the enhancement of the fact of being? So anybody, even if you watch a tragic movie, anything that will move you to recognize the power of a moment in terms of life and death and its implications, it makes you feel more alive. What does it do for your relationship to the world around you? That's the question. Now we know that a lot of what we say. As a matter of fact, it's interesting, was actual experience of Buber, who ended up giving up his experiences of religious consciousness because of the fact that he had a student who was profoundly depressed, and he had one of these fantastic religious experiences, and wasn't even sensitive to the fact that the student planned suicide and killed himself. So you realize here he's talking all about, wow, the great meaning of his experiences. And in the end, it left him a cold secular person who didn't have any connection to the people around him, even to that extent of being sensitive to what the person was going through, what he needed from him. Fine. But the fact is that there is a world of more and more exposure to exactly these types of instances of profound experiences of the shared nature of the totality of the reality that's available for us. The result of these amazing levels of awareness has been almost entirely a sense of loss, of personal coldness, of feeling that my own individual significance is basically nowhere unless I go out and just try to make things work for me. So I'll spend a few years that I have in the short period in which my life is creative and is up against everybody else, and I'll prove myself and get my career and make my discoveries and so on and so forth, knowing full in your heart that this is a short time that's going to be available for you, that basically the next generation is going to be coming up and they're going to be dispossessing you from whatever it is that you think you've achieved. And you take what you can. What it is that you look for is a level of sophistication and intellectualization and understanding that provides you a deeper and deeper vocabulary of things to talk about and be impressive with. As far as the interrelationships that emerge from this fantastic sense of being, you find yourself getting colder and colder as time goes on, rather than more and more enthusiastic and childishly involved and happy and willing to invest and just do things without thinking about their consequences, which is very strange. But essentially, that is what happens on Sukkot, and that's the reason that Chanuka becomes a replacement for Sukkot. What happens in Sukkot, as the Gemara says, is that we're left with Sason v'Simcha. We have that crazy story. Sason v'Simcha is the name of two people, Both of them are minim. They're sitting there making fun of each other. V'shavta mayim b'Sason. See, we're going to use you as a holder for all of that water, And it's like a weird Gemara in which these are two minim, and it describes the breakdown of their relationship, specifically through Sason v'Simcha. Now remember, Sukkot comes from the word socher, which, like Yiska, means Ruach HaKodesh, Nevius, Simchas Pesach Shoeva, a completely different level of perception that essentially comes from outside of you. The Simchas Pesach Shoeva is the makor of Neviut. It's there that Yonah Navi became an Navi and so on and so forth. It goes back to Ma'aseh Bereshis because of the Shittim and the She'iv of Mayim HaKodesh and of the Mayim from the Shittim and the Nirsuch HaMayim and so on and so forth. The key word to Sukkot is enhanced perception. It's Socher, Ruach HaKodesh, but it doesn't dream. The word, the Kabbalistic word for Sukkah, which you all know, is the Tzela de Mehemnuta. It's the tzel of emuna. But emuna, as I've explained to you, everybody thinks it's the same as bitachon, has nothing to do with bitachon. Zero. So the depth of your appreciation of being does not in any way reflect on your presence in the universe and what it means. It doesn't provide you significance. It provides you with that incredible sense of what it is to be. The more disappointment there is And what happened with this grandeur that was a human being, the result of billions of years of evolution, pre-biological evolution, an entire universe and populations of stars and first and second generations and all of the necessary steps that would take until I finally arrive, in which you're mechuyev to say, B'shvili nivra olam, and yeah, what came of it? Fighting with siblings over Yerushas, what came of it? And you sit there and you look around, you say, well, look at all of these families busted up, this divorce, they're not getting along. These guys don't get along with their siblings. What is this? This is what we needed billions of years of development for. I mean, anything. The coldness that comes of it is in direct proportion to the exposure that you have to the glories of Greece. That's essentially what it boils down to. The reason that Yavan represents such darkness is because the greater your sophistication, the greater your level of success, the greater your level of impact, exteriorized impact on the world around you, the greater is your disappointment and sense of loss in darkness. So surprisingly, the Choshech al Pnei Tahom is dafka the greatest achievements that humans have in terms of what we call the achievements of Western sophistication. The intellectual achievements, which are direct results of sentience, of fine. They ought to be, as everybody always feels, I ought to be fulfilled by the massive number of books that I know, by the incredible plays that I've seen, by the movies that I enjoy, by the discoveries that I've made. And instead, suicide rates go up and up and up. People have no sense of the meaning of their lives, the presence of their life. Escapism is rife all over the place. People can't stand looking at themselves in the mirror. They spend the entire lives working on their physique or worrying about their weight. The most unbelievable wastage of years of such wonderful being because it doesn't mean anything. So the emuna that Selah and the Anusa issues are insufficient. More than that, the greater your perspective on that level, the more likely it is that you end up with a sense of loss because you don't see it going anywhere. The other way, and this is the other sheet in the Zohar, of understanding the nature of these dreams, and that's why both Yehuda and Yosef need each other desperately. Neither of them fully understand what's happening. The other meaning of the Zohar is that all dreams trace back to that one original dream of Yaakov Avinu. That was not a dream that starts the stories in the Torah of dreams. It was the dream. And the nature of that dream is built on the sense of the relationship of the presence of Adam in the world and what it means. That's why bitachon is central to how you will understand the dream. To whatever extent you have objectified external reality and view it as something that needs to be dealt with, to that extent, the dream will be closed to you because it's not about the nature of reality. It's about the nature of what you can do with reality, which by definition means you're locked out of that reality in its total picture. Ultimately, what Yehuda was telling Yosef was that you were stuck in a particular stable orbit around Avinu was, what the meaning of Yisrael could be, what the presence in the world of a human being could be. And because of that, you felt that you could manipulate the perception of the octopuses around you. And that's a total mistake. And you, says Yosef, who couldn't even understand what was happening. But that's the whole thing, says Yehuda. I learned horribly, to the most awful choshech, to the most awful misbehavior, to the most embarrassing type of situation, I learned to recover by admitting the truth. And it was that constant admitting the truth, no matter what it cost me, step by step, horrible piece by piece. But ultimately, I was led to a situation in which I could come to Yaakov Avinu and say, look, personally, I never liked Rachel. Personally, I don't like the whole idea of the relationship with Rachel. I don't like the whole relationship with Yosef, and I don't think that that is the way we were meant to live. I don't think you start at the top with these tremendous romantic notions. They're always going to go sour. It's just like infatuation. We'll always go sour. You start at the bottom and you work your way up piece by piece until you mature and find out what life is like. But you know what I found out? That what life was like was mechayev me to let everybody see that actually what it is that Yaakov includes is a perspective that is what allows the development of something like me to be related to the whole world. And that perspective relates this connection to Rachel, and it connects to Yosef, and it connects to Binyamin, and there's nothing I can do about it. Support it with everything that I am. That's all. And had I figured that out before, then I would have explained it to all of you. And your feelings about me is, why didn't you understand that before? Had you told us about it, we would have listened to you. And that's why I had to leave the family. Vayered Yehuda me'achav, Rashi says this. Because they said to him, look, this is ridiculous. You could have foreseen this. You could have said it to us. We would have listened to you. Okay, so I worked my way back. The amazing moment in which he comes to Yaakov Avinu and he says, after telling the brothers, this guy is an old man. This is not the father that we know. And Yaakov himself says, I'm an old man. You're going to just let me die, an old man. Exactly. That's what Yehuda was saying. There's got to be a moment that wakes him up to who he is. That moment is when he sees that indeed the world is a world that is responding to his vision. That's me. And then we have the most amazing statement. Ve'el Shaddai yivarech etchem. Where does that come in? That El Shaddai, remember, is the name of the original vision and the original dream that he had back at the beginning. Ani El Shaddai, right? All of a sudden, now he's back with his vision of the Beis HaMikdash. But how did he get there, says the Medrash? An amazing thing. He comes up with this vision that somehow Yosef must be there. Achicha Ma'acher is going to get out of this. That's clear, because things are coming together. The Cracker Jacks, all of that nonsense comes hand in hand with his telling the brothers. The simple meaning sounds just funny. El Shaddai Yivarech Etchem. Why is Hashem called Kel Shaddai? Says the Gemara, because the meaning of the world as we find it, if you think about it, that's an insane coincidence, right? Except for the fact that obviously it's not coincidence, because it's the only way you would find it, because it's the only way you would exist. So here you are at the most absurd state in which it's just at exactly the moment in which just moments ago, a new sentient species evolved on this planet, and here you are just learning about the simple, basic things like gravity and forces and what it is to think. You're still completely childish, absurdly at the mercy of all of your nonsensical reptilian brain needs and everything else. You haven't worked out what it means to be in this world, why it is the way it is. You know nothing about it. You don't understand what it means to think. You don't understand how it is that neurons relate to brains and to the experience of consciousness. You know nothing. Anything that's important, you know nothing about. And anything that you've ever thought has always been wrong, without exception. There's not one thing that this species ever came up with that was right. Ever. I mean, it's an amazing thing. It's always partially right, but there's always things that you don't take into consideration, exceptions, and most importantly, laws of unintended consequences. Fine. What a coincidence. So here you are right at that moment, right? Therefore, what it is that's really happening is that to whatever extent you are willing to recognize the meaning of that Chalom of Yaakov, which is the Sulam, That basically you live in a cloud which is continually developing and changing, almost in front of your eyes. And we, of course, see that all the time. So therefore, what my real taina is to Yosef is, why weren't you fluid? Why couldn't you see yourself from yet one step above? Why couldn't you learn that you don't have to make us interpret things in this, exactly what you were saying to us, but from the other point of view? I'm starting from the bottom, and that's what the Medrash says. Ish tfunot yidlena. It's like a guy pulls up piece by piece out of the depths of a well. I got to pick another piece of information, and then another piece of information. And as the Medrash says, you have to tie one string to the next string to the next string, because each discovery lets you go a little bit deeper, and then you tie the next discovery onto that, and then you go even deeper until you're finally able to get up something that makes a little bit of sense. And that's what Yud is ready to do. This is reflected, by the way, in learning, exactly the same way. Yaakov Avinu is the Mishnah. Vayakom Yaakov Mishnato, al tikra Mishnato, ela mi Mishnato. Aviv Shamar et hadavar, wherever it says Shamar, it means Zu Mishnah. Where we have Gavoim al Gavoim Aleim, it's the Shomer, as the Pasuk of Kohelet says. Ki gavoa me'al gavoa shomer. So the concept of a Yaakov and the idea of a vision of a totality which provides Tiferes is a Mishnah. A Mishnah means anything. The genius of Rebbe is that he managed to fit in, says the Gemara, 13 completely different, consistent faces to the Mishnah. But that was a tremendous limitation. He was only Rebbe. There's meant to be at least 70 different faces to the essence of Torah as it's expressed initially. And he had to use tricks to do it. He had to leave out pieces from Mishnayos that allowed the reader to plug in a response. This Mishnah makes no sense. Well, it's missing something. Okay, what's it missing? You figure it out. Put it in. Or by using words that could mean 100 different things. I mean, you sit there reading Baba Kama. What the heck is a maveh? I don't know. Well, depending on what a maveh is, you have to change every other meaning in the Mishnah because it has to fit in with the maveh, right? All kinds of amazing tricks like that to keep the flow open without demanding of you a particular way of looking at things, which is essentially what Yaakov Avinu wants to do. And this is Rebbe Meir, who has got Memchas Panim, Memchas Panim. These are the Memchas Panim, which is because of that nobody's ready to listen to it, because no matter what you feel, oh, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not. Here, let me disprove that. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not. Here's another way of looking at it. Forget it. I don't want to hear what you have to say anymore, right? It's very difficult for people to relate to a fluid reality. But the real relationship to dream and the understanding of bitachon is that the way in which you connect to the world has to be predicated on your not using it in some way as if it's an object. Listen to this incredible Zohar, which I've told you in the past. It's an absolutely amazing Zohar. Different Malachim, says the Zohar, had 4 different requests of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. David says, let me chase my enemies until there's nothing left of them. Fine. David HaMelech, why? He was on a madrega, you could do that. But Asa was worried about his own honesty of the things that he refused to face, which is called avon akevai. The things that I walk over because I can't stand thinking about them. So I refuse to acknowledge that they're destroying me. Okay, so that's avon akevai. Asa, because of that, says the Zohar, had a bit of a problem. Because even though he was sensitive about whether he's doing things right or wrong, he knew that he wasn't fully honest. And because of that, it was a look at David Malka. So he asked, let me chase my enemies, but not catch them. Because what does he say? If I'll catch them, so then things, so what does he say? Divrei Yomim? Fame Asa, the Amasherimo, Vayigof Hashem et Akushim. He didn't do anything. He chased them. God will take care of them. I'll chase them. Yoshaphat Melech Yehuda, he said, boy, I don't trust myself, you know. I better not even chase them. So, you know what I'll do? I know what I'll do. I'll sing. I'll sing, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will wipe them out. Okay. So, sure enough, what does it say? Yamin, ube'ez sechelu berina u'tihila, nasha natan Hashem ma'arvim al b'nei Ammon u'Moav ha'ar seir, boom, vayinok. So I'll sing. Great. Chizkiyahu, he says, I'm a real stinker. You know, I can't sing. I can't run. I can't fight. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to sleep. What does it say about Sancher? Vayiba layla hu, vayetze malach Hashem vayach b'machaneh shumeyav v'shmonim v'chamisha elef, vayashkimu b'boker. Well, was it done? Yeah, yinei kulam pingorim. I mean, this is like unbelievable, right? I mean, wouldn't you think that the lower darga that you have, the more you have to work to get things done? I'm on such a low madrega, I'll just go to sleep and let that Kadosh Baruch Hu take care of it. Well, isn't that amazing? It's exactly the opposite, right? But the point is, the lower your madrega, the more you objectify what you're doing. I can't go out there and actually fight. Believe in it. In other words, living in a cloud always means the possibilities are all very nice, but the actuality of there being a one-to-one correlation between what I'm doing and the results is ridiculous. You could plan D-Day for 4 years, and one question of a weather report will mean that it's all off, and then it's a suffix. Should I call it off? Should I call it off? Because I have 2 different weather reports. I mean, this is literally what happened. And the entire thing could have been swamped by 1 additional meter of waves. That's it. So the landing craft can't handle it. As is, they lost almost everything. It's all very nice to have these incredible plans, to have everything worked out, to have all the technology in place. We all know how much randomness, which is the essence of the entire development of the world, how much it's completely and totally, by definition, unplannable. Nothing you can do about it. Everything is perfect, except it doesn't work. Happens all the time because life is so complex. Because it's an evolutionary process, emergent results, aren't you to believe, are actually going to work out one-to-one because it's exactly like a computer program. It's not like. Therefore, your madrega of how fully you live on that sulam is the extent at which you can be involved honestly in the world. Therefore, if you're really understanding that every dream is an access to Yaakov Avinu's initial dream, then what you understand is that you're looking at yourself doing what you're doing, you're dreaming, without any sense of being in that. This is my life, and this is what I'm going to do with my life, and this is my great achievement. There's none of that. You're seeing your life within a context that is so broad that it extends before your birth, it extends after your death. It becomes a completely different vision of your place in the totality of what creation was, just as it went back to Yaakov Avinu's El Shaddai. It was called El Shaddai because, as I said, of the incredible coincidence. Look where we find ourselves. That's right. Says the Gemara, that's why he's called El Shaddai. The universe was expanding without end. I'm the one who said, okay, this is a nice point. Stop. Let's see what we get. El Sha'amar La'olamot Die. That's enough. Let's take this instant now. What are we going to do with this instant? Your little instant of a few million years. What are we going to do with this instant? That's the die. So on the laugh level, which when you understand it fully, it's not funny. But again, on the simple level that people take as a joke, Avram Yaakov Avinu says, God, you told the universe enough. How about if you tell my tzoros enough already, Leave the poor boy alone. But of course, the deep sense of that is that he literally viewed his own experiences as the nature of the universe, which points to something very beautiful that happened at that moment, which is, as the Medrash said, why did he say that? Well, because he says, here's money, here's peanuts and Cracker Jacks, and you can go down now. Is there anything else that maybe you need, boys? He says to his sons. And because of Yehuda, for the first time, he has heard this in so many years, their answer was, yes, we need your tefillah. Oh, he says, now we're talking. El Shaddai Yivarech Etchem, because I see this as part of the entire vision that I had from that first dream until all the way. Sheikha Gedola Nofelet of Brisbane Absarim, the Choshech that I was committed to before. The one who said, it's enough chaos, let's see what can be done with it, should say, we've had enough chaos too. Now let's see what we can do with it. V'achicha ma'acher, let your other missing brother, let him come too. Because once you understand that you need that tefillah, you can also go back to my dream and figure out what it's like. You won't get anywhere, says Yosef. You won't get anywhere just creeping your way up. What is the world into which you're creeping? I'm giving you that world. Yes, says Yoda, you're giving me that world, but you are not able to flow with it either. Into which the two of them join together, that they suddenly provide two completely different approaches for Yaakov Avinu's own Mishnah. And that, the truth is, there's two completely different ways of learning Gemara. The Gemara says, one is Yosef's way, Yehuda's way. Do we want a Sinai or do we want an Oker Horim? Do we want somebody who can tear the earth apart and figure each point out and be medayik in every Rashi? Or do we want somebody who knows everything and can see the entire thing from the point of view of Har Sinai? This was an actual question that they had in the Gemara, right? Miyadev, Sinai, who should be the next Rosh Hashiva? Rabbi Yosef, who traced himself to Yosef himself, and who was Melech for 22 years, Keneged Yosef himself, right? Or should it be the one who could be Oker Harim, the way Yehuda was? The difference between David and Shaul, says the Gemara, was that Shaul never went into the details and to sit there and to learn a sugya until he was sweating blood. So he wasn't Goli Masechta. David used to be Goli Masechta. That was the whole difference. Well, obviously. You know what it's called? If you are medayik only in one Masechta, you say, I like this Masechta, I don't like another Masechta. It's called a pimp. Ro'eh Zonot. A Ro'eh Zonot is a pimp. Exactly the words that Yaakov Avinu's Dumut Yuknos said to Yosef when he was about to sleep with Eshes Potiphar. Right? So he said, you got two choices in life. And this is everybody's choice. You can either be a letter that lights up on the Urim V'Tumim, because that's where you're supposed to be, or you can be a pimp. Same language. You want to be a Ro'eh Zonot, or do you want to be on the Beged of the Kohen Gadol forever? Which one do you want? It boils down to every decision that a person makes. You are either a pimp, and it doesn't matter whether the pimp is, this Masechta is nice and that Masechta is not nice. So now we're choosing Masechtas. Now we're choosing lives. Now we're choosing the kind of things that I appreciate in life and don't appreciate in life. The personalization turns you into a pimp. It's exactly that issue. Is a relationship there because if it's physical context? Or are you a universal lover? That's the question. You took that octopus by hand. Are you a lover of the universe? Or are you a scientist on his way to understanding sentience? You can be both. You need to be both, because you need to be both Yehuda and Yosef in order to express what Yaakov Avinu contains within him. And that Ani Kel Shakai, that Yaakov Avinu invokes, leads you back one further step. Understanding of the nature of bitachon, the nature of dreams, and the nature of your place in reality. And that is the understanding of the single dream that you have no choice but to interpret. Gemara says, a dream that is uninterpreted is like a letter that is never read. And what is that dream? It's called creation. You are stuck in a dream. What it means, where it goes, depends on your interpretation of that dream. The nature of Rashis, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is your choice. I can't even tell you whether it's a good idea to create humans. I don't know. Nasa Adam B'Tzamenu, I don't know. Maybe. Should we? You think we should? Will we ever know? Only the Adam. It's because what interpretation did you give to Rashis? Every time that you make an act of interpretation, it is called, in terms of Lashon HaKodesh, avodah. That's what avodah is. That's what a Beis HaMikdash is. That's Vayechol HaShamayim V'Haaretz V'chol Tzva'am. V'chol Tzva'am, says the Gemara, means Tzivyonam. How do you want to be? So as the Gemara says, everything ends up making itself. The stories of your own evolution and your own choices are what the dream meant now back in the past. And this is exactly what Yaakov was telling, what Yehuda was telling Yaakov. I could have been back twice. Yeah, but you didn't know it. So what? So what? Now I know it. That's the point. Everything that you've chosen is exactly the way the world has ended up responding. Does that mean that it wasn't fluid and it wasn't up in the clouds? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, that's a joke. I really know, but I'm not telling you. Ha ha ha. We'll choose it. Of course, that's not what it means. The choice of Binyamin here became the choice of Yedid Hashem, became the choice of the Mokum HaMikdash, became the place. I mean, of course it's fluid. When I knew that it was Bishvil Yisrael, Shedik Rashis, I knew all about Avram Avinu. Of course you didn't. Someone interpreted the dream of Rashis by the name of Avram. And because of that, everything responded to him. Consciousness, a telephone call, somebody's interested. Amazing. What's he like? What does he want? What's he looking for? And this is the way that every story of every Kadur Haaretz, wherever it is, evolves its own life, evolves its own vision of what that reality is. And that's its bitachon. The more in the cloud and the more fluid it is, the more it allows itself to impact the world around it. And that's why Chanuka, out of Choshech, had to be a function for the Beit HaMikdash and for Kohanim particularly. It was exposure of light that meant anything. That was the Aragonus, with all possible interconnections in which you choose one way to thread your way through. You know what the word of threading your way through is? Ishvil. Bishvil Yisrael. It will always be a way to thread your way through. And that thread becomes the definition of that original Rashis. So the question of your own insignificance, or your own darkness, the journey out of darkness, is linked to, as Rabbeinu Bachya says, it's linked to your understanding of what lo b'chayav or lo b'choach ki im beruchi means. How much are you part of the actual nature of reality, which has almost nothing in common with what the fabric of consciousness that you experience tells you it has, and we know there's no reason scientifically to believe that there's any connection between some external reality and the fabric of your experiences of God. Nothing in common whatsoever. So that sense of fluidity, of being in a cloud, of being on a sulam in which you're constantly rediscovering the nature of reality, must inform your level of what we call bitachon, which no longer means anything like what we thought it meant. It meant the sense that you have of being at home in a universe. That's all that it means. Betach. I am at home in a universe. The more profound you're at home in the universe, the more incredibly broad the possibilities of that universe and the possibilities of its responding to you, which is the way Rav Yehuda understands the nature of a dream. So of course it's completely dependent on your picture of reality, which is, what is the universe that I'm comfortable with? If the universe that you're comfortable with is a place that is well under your control, and in which you've taken care of all the threats, and in which you're Howard Hughes and protecting yourself from every microbe because you might get sick and, I can't get sick or whatever it is. I mean, that's insanity. That's not a place in the universe. That's a place out of the universe. The universality of love. All that you are is Don Juan, and you're loving everybody, you're loving nobody. Because all of it is just personal roezonot. That's all. This is, I have to control, and this I have to control, this I have to control. The deepest love of the universe is not controlling anything, in which the relationship is complete and total sharing of something that's beyond either of you. But the moment that it becomes, well, it's only this person that I love, forget about it. Why is it only this person that you love? I understand. What is this about? It's about attraction. It's about something that's up in the air that you don't even know anything about, that's part of your reptilian past. We have no idea even why you're attracted to this person. This you call love. It does have to do with love. The greater the universalization on this madrega, the greater the level of the Yisrael that there is. It's because of that, the most amazing thing that, this Chanukah is one of the most astonishing Chanukahs in human history. It's the first time in human history that the opening Rashi of Bereshis became absolutely real as the front page of your newspaper. It's the first time in history that actually, as Rashi says, why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu say Bereshis? Because there will come a day that all of the nations on earth will organize, and they will build an organization which will have one purpose: to universally and unanimously say, you have no rights to Eretz Yisrael. Now, all of that was a dream. Even when my children were kids, I'm like, come on, what is that Rashi supposed to be? It's ridiculous. And this was after already, there was enough reason to see that this, when I was a kid, what is this supposed to mean? What is this, people? It's the Jews and the elephant question again, Everything is about the Jews. Yeah, sure. They're going to be all the Goyim will get together and we'll say, like anybody cares. I remember when my youngest son was old enough to say to me, it's really true. That's all they care about. They didn't believe it. It was like the biggest cynic. How did it turn out to be true? I was like laughing about it. This is part of the amazing kayach of what Chanukah is, because what Yehud ends up discovering is that all of this darkness, we look around and we say, oh, come on, there's nothing. There's not one group of people that are normal. There's not one religious movement that's normal. There's not one political movement that, everybody's crazy. You meet everybody, they're all crazy in a million different ways. It's incredible how many different crazinesses there are. There's an entire world of utter craziness. What could possibly come from this mess? It's absolutely impossible. And what it is that you had understood there and how it is that he motivated the Shvatim. And remember, this is the whole meaning of Vizot Chanukat HaMizbeach. Now think about it. that the Torah considers the theory of mind of each of the Nisim to be more important than the Maisa. Nowhere else in the Torah does this appear. I need to know that he did it because what he did had nothing in common with what you did. What do you mean? Nothing. That was exactly the same things. Waiting. Or is it about awareness and relationship? Not one of these people had anything in common with any of the other people. And yet, I'm putting them together. Because that's the point. If I can't put them together, I have nothing. And the same thing is true. Imagine when the day will come, very soon, in which you finally get pushed beyond the point that you're ready to tolerate. Very soon, right? The moment of Vatem alu b'shalom el avichem, where some stinker like France or Saudi Arabia or Malaysia decides to tell us what we can. You know what? Thank you. We've had enough. And imagine what the reaction is to we've had enough. But where does it come from that we'd have enough? From every stupid cab driver, from every nutty religious group. Everybody will agree that we've had enough. And they've all had enough for different reasons, have a different experiences. And it's amazing. And they will all go together and you say, Yisro b'tak Hashem. And that's mamish what will happen.
Did you ever see Peter's speech in Hebrew in response to Kerry?
No.
Oh, Rabbi has to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that he was pushed to that point. He was pushed to that point, but soon everybody will be
And he
pushed.
spoke about the menorah and Or.
Yeah.
From Ruthie Fogel's father.
Wow.
He broke down for a second.
Really?
He got emotional.
Wow.
He composed himself and he went on. It was beautiful.
Yeah. No, he's got something in him with these things. But I'm saying everybody does. That's the point. So the fact that you can't identify that's the Nisim. You have Yud Beis Nisim. You have Yehuda that was able to tell his brothers who knew they had to get out of the way, like the Medrash says. Oh, there's kings getting involved. I'm standing by the side. So Nivalu nechafozu. I don't want anything to do with this, because they had to work it out, and that working out was two completely different sensations of what it is to live in the world, where you are on the ladder, how much you're willing to go down and work your way up, and how much you're willing to be suspended in a cloud for all of its crazy potential. It's connected to the original dream, which is the dream of creation itself, and that's where beauty. In the end, the universe speaks your language. That's the idea of the dream interpretation. Your life becomes the interpretation, the ultimate interpretation. So in that interpretation, to talk about the questions of significance, octopus significant when he holds your hands and takes you down to, is this the question? Significance? Is a galaxy significant? What exactly is the question of significance? The significance is the presence within the nature of being. That's what it is. There is no other meaning to significance. There is nothing else that is significant, that can be significant. So that means that the nature of Aveda is dependent on the sense of ultimate significance, of there cannot be anything standing in my way, that if it's darkness, it's because something is preventing me from seeing what it is that I'm suspended in, which we've all experienced, right? But you can go from utter despair to insane, oh my God, what an unbelievable world, with either the pop of a pill or the intelligence of a brain. But it just means I don't see it. The Ket Sam L'Choshech means enough. Enough. Yes, of course we have to go through all of this in order to be able to understand ourselves and to experience what is really going on. But in the end, to become smart out of things is one upmanship to be able to out-talk the other person's movie analysis. I mean, it's beyond belief, the things that we do to ourselves. So that The willingness, absolutely full of everything that's possible, is the ultimate universality that leads you back into the Oragonos itself. That Salusa of Yaakov Avinu becomes the Salusa of every single human being. The difference between control on the one hand and the complete empathy of the experience of the love of all aspects of creation, which you are making into a vision of what it is that you're interpreting. I mean, it's something amazing. Connection is there between the cheapo avodah, so to speak, of sukkahs, which everything is set up for you, as if you've already been through all the darkness. Yes, the world won't work until Adam appears, so it doesn't rain. Gee, what a beautiful lesson. And how about the world doesn't really work until Adam goes through hell for thousands and thousands of years and doubts every single minute of his life and leads a million novels of despair and hopelessness, and only then starts to figure out what it is to be alive? How about that? That kind of Aveda. You bring Chanuka, relationships. All of that stuff is easy. That's Nevi'us. I don't want to understand dreams. I don't want to understand messages. I don't want to be an object. I don't want to just have a little role to play. I want the whole universe to be me. Because that's what you wanted when you created it. This is what you're waiting for. Okay, so we're ready to act. But it's about me. It's not about you. If I go building a Beis Hamikdash, then you can start feeling the kina that I feel. That's the point. Yes, that's exactly what we say in the Tefillah on Chanuka. That's what we say. We thank you. We really should have been the ones who bested those blasted bastards out of the water. But nakamtas nikmasam. It mattered so much to you that you wanted to do it for us. Exactly what we did in terms of the kina of Pinchas and the kina of Chanuka and so on and so forth. Dantes tibam, raftes rivam. Our Reeve. You were Mekana for us. Because looking at what you care, this is what I've been waiting for. What am I supposed to do? Watch while people insult you? Watch while people don't recognize the significance of what you're doing? And you should have to do everything? Get out of the way, boys. That's the Rafta Riva. What deeper hod and connection is there? What greater avoidance of any sense of kviyat tova? Kviyat tova! Which I'm doing everything kviyat tova. Of course it's about hod, it's about halal, it's about tova, but it's about the profound, unbelievable shock at having such an incredible universe to live in. That's crazy. How could it be designed in such a way that it should all be a dream that has to be interpreted like this? That's an amazing shock. Story of Chanuka is a story of overcoming darkness through an understanding of the relationship that you really have with the world, not just emunah, but the true depths of bitachon, and how much you are authorizing yourself, be confident enough of your purity, which is all about Tumah Taira. That's what purity is. If there's like one screwy thing in you, and this is what Chizkiah says, look, I know how screwy I am. I'm not going to go out there and mess things up with my ridiculous attitude. So what can you do? I know what needs to be done, but I can't risk ruining it. The greater you are, the more you can actually risk being absolutely physically manifest in every last detail. But the less honest you are, and the more tummy you are, that can be a very small issue, after all. The nature of impurity? You know, he was holding the lechem in the knaf big dough, which then touched the nezid, which touched the lechem, which touched the yain, which touched the Hayitameolo. Exactly. We don't even know what the question was. Forget about what the right answer was. Okay, so you understand how much you're saying. Okay, but that's details of learning. What do you think details of learning are? What do you think details of poetry are? What do you think an understanding of an extra vav in a pasuk is and how it changes the nature of reality and gives you insights into the way that language with the tiny little differences creates entirely new visions, not only in your individual brain, but in the way the world works out, for heaven's sakes. Would you think it's a little nothing if we're in the middle of a computer program that's controlling flights all around the world, you fool? So what, don't you understand? You're talking about serious things here. So you've learned enough to understand little letters in the wrong place equal cancer, dumb. So let's start thinking about reality. What is that supposed to mean insignificant? What is insignificant? Which protein is insignificant? Which gene is insignificant? Go ahead, tell me. Oh, the junk genes, right? Yeah, try getting rid of them. Yeah, let's watch what happens. Oh, what a lovely mess of mutations. This is beyond belief. How, as we grow up just a little bit, how you become aware of insignificance, right? Like a little savage that discovered a computer that fell out of a plane that's doing all these wonderful things, and you take a little bite out of a chip, and then you wonder, hey, how come it stopped working? And just took a little bite out of a chip with 300,000 transistors and so on and so forth, you know. Yeah, it's insignificant. Primitives, insignificant. Primitives, exactly. So that's exactly the point. The more you grow and the more you understand what the world is really about, the less primitive you are, the more significant is the single letter, the one relationship that you've fixed, the one insight into the nuttiness that's inside of you. And do you know that the center of the brain that determines whether you're a ro'ez or not is exactly the center of the brain that determines empathy and love and theories of mind? It was just discovered, just came out. It's the same exact center of neurons that will define how empathetic you can be to other life and how much self-control you will have when faced with an Isai, which of course is exactly the Yosef issue. What do you want? You know how they define it scientifically. It must mean that empathy is also an empathy for your own self in the future, which is a very cute interpretation, but obviously, I mean, very stretched. The deeper nekuda is that we're talking about the perception of reality that makes this choice. Do I do it or do I flow into it so that I can see that other mind? If you can see other mind, then the world isn't a place to be a ro'ez or not. And it's not a place where I need to grab everything that's presented to me. Where my basic stance in life is to learn what it is to go with the octopus. How many people would go with the octopus to go visit his house? Not too many people, right? It's a pretty amazing kind of thing. And so that type of real commitment to the flow of life is the commitment to Kel Shakai, is the commitment to the original dream of Bereshit, and is the commitment to never, ever doubting significance, which is the commitment to Aveda, which is the basis of a Beis HaMikdash, which is the reason that it was at that moment of that dream he discovered the Beis HaMikdash, which is why the little boy had to go to sleep while he grows up, which is true of all of us. And to whatever sense, it's all exclusive and personal. All the things we do, very exclusive. And if it isn't exclusive, then it's just generic instead of universal. I mean, those are opposite ends of a spectrum, right? Those are the differences between a view of bitocha that only holds on to Emunah, ends up in profound disappointment at everything, because obviously the more exclusive the relationship is, the more controlled and limited it is. And a type of life that gives you an access to that original dream and an ability to see yourself at each stage of your life, past and future, and ultimate future, as being somewhere along that cloud of the dream of Yaakov Avinu, totally committed and immersed to what needs to be done at that point in space-time, that you are there if you're pure enough to be involved in it without killing yourself. And yet at the same time, never being limited by it, always being attached to the totality of the potential, which was the simple meaning of the dream. But the deeper ability to be that requires the deeper ability to dream, as on Chanuka, to go beyond the dangers of the minus of Sukkot. And of course, when you get back to Sukkot, it's an amazing Sukkot, because then the incredible joy of the Sasan V'Simcha of being itself includes within it being within the context that we call our universe, and which provides for us that sense of complete presence, satisfaction, to such an extent that we can close our eyes and go to sleep.
Oh, man.
Okay, so happy Chanukah to all of you. May we be zocheh to see that moment of rashis in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mekana kina gedola to Tzion and starts getting rid of these unbelievable monsters all around us. So, and we thank very much our host and our invisible hostess. Thank you very, very much for everything. Chanukah Sameach. Bezrat Hashem next year.